The Mojave Desert at noon is not just hot. It is a merciless, unforgiving furnace where even the shadows seem to burn. Waves of lethal heat rise from the cracked asphalt of an abandoned rest stop, distorting the horizon into a shimmering mirage of death. The heavy silence is broken only by the maddening buzz of desert insects and the dry whisper of wind carrying stinging dust. In this desolate wasteland, miles away from human kindness, a tragedy is unfolding. Bella, a golden retriever whose once magnificent coat is now matted with dirt and dried mud, lies tethered to a rusted post. Her ribs poke through her skin like a cage of starvation, and her dry white tongue pants desperately for a single drop of water. A few feet away from her, the true nightmare begins to take shape. Bella's 6 newborn puppies, only 15 days old, are completely defenseless against the brutal elements. They have been shoved into a cheap plastic storage bin, the kind used for old clothes, and the lid has been cruelly sealed shut with layers of thick industrial duct tape. It is a makeshift coffin, a deadly greenhouse where the temperature is skyrocketing by the second. Bella whimpers, her maternal heart shattering as she watches her babies struggle for breath in the rapidly depleting oxygen. She knows that every second passing under this brutal sun is a countdown to their agonizing death. Suddenly, the crunch of gravel breaks the silence as a high-end luxury SUV rolls into the deserted lot. A well-dressed woman steps out into the blistering heat, her face twisted in an expression of pure annoyance rather than empathy. She is the villain in this story, the owner who decided that a mother and her 6 innocent babies were merely disposable trash. With cold, calculated detachment, she grabs the plastic bin containing the whimpering puppies and walks toward a giant, sun-baked metal dumpster. Without a second of hesitation or a single ounce of remorse, she tosses the heavy container into the boiling metal abyss, sealing their horrific fate. But she did not account for the sheer unstoppable power of a mother's love. Bella is not cowering in fear. She is consumed by a holy, protective fury that ignites her starving body. Her eyes, usually so gentle and trusting, now burn with the fierce intensity of a divine judge. She looks at the monster who betrayed them, and something inside her snaps. Using a miraculous surge of adrenaline, Bella lunges forward with all her remaining might. The thick nylon rope that holds her captive groans under the strain until, with a sharp crack, it snaps in two. Bella is free, and she is charging. Bella does not run away into the desert to save herself. Instead, she sprints directly in front of the luxury SUV, just as the cruel woman is getting back into the driver's seat. Bella plants her paws firmly on the boiling asphalt, her chest heaving, and unleashes a ferocious, authoritative bark that echoes across the empty wasteland. It is not the bark of a frightened dog. It is a primal roar demanding justice. The woman inside the car gasps, slamming on the brakes in sheer shock. Bella stands like a guardian angel, a golden shield between the vehicle and the exit, absolutely refusing to move an inch. But the worst is yet to come, and the clock is ticking down to a fatal 0. The woman inside the SUV angrily revs the engine, clearly willing to run over this heroic mother to make her escape. Inside the metal dumpster, the plastic box is melting, and the puppy's cries are growing dangerously weak. It looks like Bella's brave stand might end in total tragedy, crushed under the tires of a heartless owner, while her babies bake alive in the dark. The tension in the burning desert air is so thick you could cut it with a knife, and death feels inevitable. 80 yards away, inside a small weathered aluminum trailer, sits Old Joe. He is a 70-year-old war veteran with trembling hands, but a heart made of gold. He has been sitting in his rocking chair, a worn Bible in his lap, quietly praying to the heavens for an end to this brutal drought. He hears the aggressive revving of the SUV engine and the desperate, frantic barks of a dog in distress. Joe pushes open his creaking screen door, stepping out into the blinding sunlight, his sharp eyes instantly assessing the chaotic scene unfolding by the old gas pumps. Joe hobbles forward, his boots crunching in the dirt, and locks eyes with the furious, panting Bella. In that split second, a profound, silent language passes between the old soldier and the desperate mother. Bella's eyes are pleading, screaming through the silence, begging this stranger to be the miracle her babies need. She looks at him not as a threat, but as a potential savior, her tail giving a tiny, hopeful wag. It is a moment of pure, heartbreaking vulnerability that reaches deep into Joe's soul. waking up the protector within him. If your heart is breaking for this brave mother and her innocent babies, please stop right now, hit the subscribe button, and say a little prayer for their rescue. Every single comment and like helps us push these emotional stories to more animal lovers, funding our mission to save these precious angels. This heroic mama risked her own life, standing against a monster just to protect her family. We need your support to ensure that beautiful souls like Bella never have to suffer this kind of unspeakable cruelty again. Join our community of heroes today. Joe doesn't hesitate for a second. With the grit of a man who has seen the worst of humanity, he marches straight into the path of the revving SUV, standing shoulder to shoulder with Bella. The wealthy woman inside screams obscenities through her rolled-up window, threatening to run them both down, but Joe stands as still as a mountain, his hardened eyes piercing right through the windshield. He raises his calloused hand, pointing a single accusatory finger at her, forcing the woman to kill the engine in sheer frustration. The standoff is won, but the real crisis is just beginning. With the car stopped, Bella immediately abandons her post and sprints toward the giant, blazing metal dumpster. She leaps up, her paws scraping against the scorching hot metal, ignoring the burns on her pads. She whines a sound so agonizing, so filled with pure maternal terror, that it brings tears to Joe's old eyes. She looks back at the veteran, then at the dumpster, communicating as clearly as if she were speaking English. "My babies are in there, please, you have to help them." Joe approaches the massive metal container, and a wave of radiating heat hits his face like an open oven door. He presses his ear close to the burning metal, and his blood runs ice cold. Faint, suffocated whimpers are echoing from deep inside the trash. The realization hits him like a physical blow to the chest. The puppies are trapped inside this boiling tomb, and the air is practically gone. Every second they spend inside is frying their fragile organs. Panic sets in, and Joe knows he needs to act faster than he has in 30 years. Is there any hope left for these tiny souls trapped in the desert heat? The cruelty of abandoning a family in this furnace is beyond words, but God always sends an angel when the darkness is deepest. Please leave a like on this video right now if you believe that anyone who abuses animals deserves to face the full force of the law, and that God will bless everyone who stands up to protect the innocent. Now hold your breath, because the real fight to save their lives is about to begin. The sheer scale of the dumpster presents a terrifying obstacle. It stands over 6 feet tall, its green metal sides baking under the midday Mojave sun until they are hot enough to fry an egg. Bella frantically jumps at the side, her golden fur brushing against the blistering surface as she cries out in pure, undiluted panic. Joe reaches out to test the exterior, but he instantly jerks, his hand back with a hiss. The steel is literally burning his skin. Inside, the muffled, dying squeaks of the puppies are fading into a chilling silence. Oxygen is running out, and Joe knows he doesn't have the luxury of time to think. With his adrenaline surging, the old veteran sprints back toward his dusty trailer, moving faster than his aged joints should allow. Every second feels like a lifetime. He grabs a pair of thick, heavy-duty leather work gloves and a rusted iron crowbar from his porch. Behind him, he hears the frantic spinning of tires. The luxury SUV is desperately trying to reverse, but divine justice has a way of intervening. The heavy vehicle sinks deep into the soft, unforgiving desert sand, its wheels spinning uselessly. The cruel woman is trapped in the very wasteland she tried to leave her victims to die in, but Joe doesn't waste a glance at the stuck car. His entire world is focused on the fading lives inside that metal oven. Returning to the dumpster, he pulls on his gloves and boosts himself up onto the scorching rim. The stench of hot garbage and melting plastic hits him like a wall. Bella stands below him on her hind legs, her eyes locked onto his, pointing her nose precisely toward a pile of construction debris. It is a stunning display of cross-species teamwork. This mother is guiding her human angel through the maze of trash to find her babies, but they didn't know that the hardest part was yet to come. Joe grits his teeth, ignoring the intense heat radiating through the soles of his boots. He uses the iron crowbar to shift heavy chunks of broken drywall and rotting wood. Bella watches his every move, her heart pounding against her bony ribcage, letting out sharp, directing barks whenever he moves closer to the buried plastic bin. The teamwork is nothing short of miraculous, a beautiful dance between a determined grandfather and a desperate mother. Finally, beneath a pile of rubble, Joe sees the corner of the cheap, translucent plastic container. Joe reaches down with his gloved hands, grasping the sides of the bin to hoist it up, but the plastic is slick with sweat and heat, and the heavy debris shifts dangerously, threatening to collapse right on top of the container. For a terrifying, heart-stopping moment, Joe loses his grip. The box slips, and a heavy wooden plank crashes down, missing the plastic lid by mere millimeters. Bella lets out a piercing shriek of pure terror, thinking she has just witnessed the death of her entire family. Joe's heart leaps into his throat, his hands shaking violently. "Easy, girl, I've got them, I promise you," Joe whispers, his voice thick with emotion, sending a wave of calming energy down to the frantic dog. He plants his feet firmly on the shifting trash and digs his fingers deep under the plastic rim, using every last ounce of his veteran strength. With a mighty groan that aches in his bones, he pulls the bin free from the debris. He carefully hands it over the side, stepping down from the dumpster, just as his legs threaten to buckle from the intense heat exhaustion. The bin is out of the fire, but the battle is far from over. Joe kneels on the hot asphalt, Bella immediately pressing her nose against the plastic, frantically trying to smell her babies. But a new horrifying problem reveals itself. The desert heat has completely melted the industrial duct tape, fusing the lid to the base in a sticky, impenetrable glue. The plastic is completely fogged up with condensation from the heat inside. Joe cannot see the puppies moving. A cold dread washes over him. Are they already gone? Joe knows that shaking the bin or ripping the lid off violently could fatally injure the tiny, fragile newborns inside. He needs the steady hands of a surgeon. Pulling a worn pocket knife from his overalls, he clicks the blade open. Bella sits perfectly still beside him, her intelligent eyes watching his hands, completely trusting this stranger with her whole world. Joe begins to meticulously slice through the melted, gooey tape, inch by agonizing inch, praying under his breath with every cut. The silence from inside the box is absolutely deafening. With a final slice, the seal is broken. Joe gently lifts the plastic lid, releasing a wave of hot, suffocating air that smells like death. Inside, the sight is absolutely heartbreaking. 6 tiny, golden puppies lie tangled together at the bottom, their small bodies completely motionless. Their tongues are hanging out, and their bellies are not rising. Bella pushes her way past Joe's hands, letting out a low, mournful whimper of absolute despair. She begins to frantically nose at her babies, begging them to wake up, but they are limp and lifeless in the afternoon sun. Joe feels a tear roll down his weathered cheek. He refuses to give up. "Not today, Lord, not on my watch," he mutters fiercely. He scoops up the entire bin and sprints toward the shade of his trailer, his old lungs burning. He grabs a pitcher of cool, fresh water from his porch. It is a moment of pure, raw desperation. Will this last-ditch effort be enough to bring these innocent souls back from the edge of the abyss? Or has human cruelty already claimed its ultimate victory? In the cool shadow of the aluminum trailer, Joe begins to carefully pour small drops of the cool water over the puppies' overheating bodies. He gently massages their tiny chests with his large, rough thumbs, mimicking the heartbeat they so desperately need. Bella stands right over them, her maternal. In the cool shadow of the aluminum trailer, Joe continues to massage the tiny chests with his large, rough thumbs. He drips cool water over their noses, praying for a sign of life. Bella stands right over them, her maternal instinct refusing to accept defeat. She begins to lick their faces vigorously, trying to transfer her own life force into their limp bodies. Suddenly, the smallest puppy, the runt of the litter, lets out a microscopic, wheezing gasp. Its tiny chest expands, and a high-pitched, miraculous squeak fills the air. It is the most beautiful sound Joe has ever heard in his entire life. Like a chain reaction of pure hope, the other 5 puppies begin to twitch, coughing up the stale, superheated air from their lungs. They start to wriggle blindly, seeking the warmth of their mother. But just as relief washes over Joe, disaster strikes from another angle. Bella, having successfully ensured her babies are breathing, lets out a heavy sigh and her legs completely buckle beneath her. She collapses hard onto the wooden deck of the porch, her eyes rolling back into her head. The heroic mother has given absolutely everything she had, and now her own body is shutting down. Joe knows they are nowhere near out of the woods yet. The clock is ticking faster than ever. He scoops Bella's heavy, unconscious body into his arms, carrying her like a fallen soldier, and places her gently onto the back seat of his beat-up Chevy truck. He quickly gathers the whimpering puppies in a soft towel and tucks them right next to their mother's fading warmth. Cranking the air conditioning to maximum, the old veteran slams the gas pedal down, tearing down the desert highway at 80 miles per hour toward the nearest veterinary clinic, 50 miles away. The drive is agonizing, filled with the terrifying silence of Bella's shallow breathing. Joe keeps one hand on the steering wheel and the other reaching back to stroke Bella's golden fur, begging her to hold on. "Stay with me, Mama. Your babies still need you," he whispers, his voice cracking with emotion. Through the rearview mirror, he sees Bella's eyes flutter open just a fraction. She looks at her squirming puppies, uses the last ounce of her strength to rest her heavy chin over them, and then falls unconscious again. She is a true angel, willing to die to keep them safe. Screeching to a halt in front of the emergency clinic, Joe jumps out and screams for help. The veterinary team rushes out the double doors with a rolling gurney, taking one look at the devastating scene and immediately springing into high gear. It is absolute chaos. A flurry of blue scrubs, shouting voices, and the beeping of medical equipment. They rush the dying mother and her critical litter into the intensive care unit. Joe is left standing in the waiting room, his hands covered in dirt and tears streaming down his weathered face, praying for a miracle. The head veterinarian, Dr. Miller, performs a rapid triage, and the diagnosis is incredibly grim. The puppies are suffering from severe thermal shock and extreme dehydration, but their young age gives them a fighting chance. Bella, however, is in a catastrophic state. Her kidneys are on the verge of total failure from severe starvation and heat exhaustion. The vet realizes with a heavy heart that Bella hadn't eaten or had a drop of water in days, sacrificing every ounce of her bodily resources to produce milk for her. Puppies. The medical team tries to separate the puppies to put them in an incubator, but the moment Bella hears their cries fade away, her heart monitor begins to spike dangerously. Even on the edge of death, her maternal anxiety is so powerful it threatens to trigger a fatal cardiac arrest. Realizing that separating them will literally kill her, Dr. Miller makes a bold, compassionate decision. He places the 6 fragile puppies directly onto the exam table, nestled right against Bella's flank, hooking them all up to a complex web of IV fluids and warming pads together. As the sun sets over the Mojave, the clinic braces for the longest, darkest night of their lives. Bella lies motionless on the metal table, hooked up to a tangle of tubes, pushing life-saving electrolytes into her veins. Joe refuses to leave, sitting on a plastic chair in the corner of the sterile room, keeping a vigil over the broken family. The room is quiet, save for the rhythmic, hypnotic beeping of the heart. Monitors. Every hour that passes feels like an eternity, and the air is thick with the terrifying fear that not all of them will see the sunrise. Just past midnight, the worst-case scenario unfolds. The heart monitor connected to the runt of the litter flatlines, emitting a continuous, horrifying tone. The tiny puppy has stopped breathing, its fragile body finally giving up the fight. Dr. Miller rushes to the table, his face tight with intense concentration, and begins to perform micro-CPR with just 2 fingers on the puppy's chest. Bella whines weakly, trying to lift her heavy head to look at her dying baby, her eyes pleading with the doctor to save him. The tension in the room is absolutely suffocating. For 2 agonizing minutes, there is no response. It seems the cruelty of the desert has finally claimed its first victim. But Dr. Miller refuses to give up on this innocent angel. He administers a tiny drop of adrenaline under the puppy's tongue and gives one final, gentle chest compression. Suddenly the puppy gasps, its tiny limbs jerking as its heart restarts. A weak but steady beep returns to the monitor. Dr. Miller lets out a long breath of relief as Bella gently reaches out and licks the doctor's hand, a pure, silent gesture of infinite gratitude. Are you rooting for this angel and her brave family? Your like helps save more lives. Subscribe to support our mission. Now, let's see if they survive the rest of the night. The crisis with the puppy passes, but the emotional roller coaster takes another dive. Bella's own vitals begin to crash. The strain of the rescue and the intense fear for her baby has overloaded her weakened heart. Her breathing becomes alarmingly shallow, and the vets scramble to adjust her medication. It looks as if the heroic mother has decided that her babies are safe now, and it is finally okay for her to let go. Joe stands up, his heart breaking, and walks over to the exam table, laying his calloused hand gently on Bella's head. "You fought a good fight, girl," Joe whispers, his voice trembling as tears fall onto her golden fur. "But your job isn't done. These babies need their mama to show them the world isn't all bad. Please stay." It is a moment of pure, devastating emotional power. Joe isn't just a rescuer, he has become her anchor. Hearing the comforting voice of the man who saved her, Bella lets out a long, deep sigh. Miraculously, her heart rate begins to steady. The bond forged in the fires of the desert is now pulling her back from the brink. As the morning sun finally breaks through the clinic windows, painting the room in soft gold, the miracle is complete. The beeping monitors show strong, healthy heartbeats for all 7 dogs. Bella is still weak, but her eyes are bright and alert. She is lying comfortably on clean blankets, and all 6 of her puppies are lined up at her belly, nursing vigorously for the first time in what feels like forever. The entire veterinary staff gathers around, wiping away tears of joy. Against all odds, the family has survived the impossible. Dr. Miller approaches Joe, who has fallen asleep in the corner chair, completely exhausted but smiling. The vet places a hand on the old man's shoulder. "They are going to make a full recovery, Joe. It's a medical miracle. That dog had no business surviving that heat, let alone keeping 6 puppies alive." Joe looks at Bella, who is now watching him with absolute unconditional love. He knows it wasn't just medicine that saved them. It was the unbreakable power of a mother's love and the grace of a higher power. A few days later, the real healing begins with the most glorious sight: a feast fit for a queen. Bella is presented with a massive bowl of premium, warm chicken and rice. She eats not with the frantic desperation of a starving stray, but with pure, undiluted joy. Her tail wags so hard it threatens to knock over the metal bowl. It is a beautiful, deeply cathartic moment to watch this heroic mother finally fill her belly, knowing deep in her soul that she will never have to fight for scraps in the dirt ever again. Next comes the ultimate glow-up for our brave mama, the spa day. The clinic staff gently places Bella into a warm tub of soapy water. As the thick, fragrant suds work through her fur, the water turns a dark, muddy brown, literally washing away the horrific trauma of the desert. When she is blow-dried and brushed, a breathtaking miracle is revealed. Her coat is no longer a matted, dull mess. It shines like spun gold, finally matching the pure, radiant beauty of her loving heart. The incredible transformation extends to her precious babies. With a constant supply of rich, healthy milk and a stress-free environment, the puppies grow rapidly. They transition from fragile, dying creatures into chubby, energetic, little lions. Their eyes open, revealing bright, curious souls ready to explore the world. They tumble over each other, yipping and playing with a joy that completely erases the memory of that suffocating plastic bin. It is the ultimate victory of innocent life over a cold, cruel attempt at death. Bella's entire personality blossoms alongside her physical recovery. The fear and fierce defensiveness melt away, replaced by an overwhelming capacity for trust and love. She greets every vet tech with happy, wiggly, full-body wags, pressing her face into their hands for scratches. But her eyes always search the room for one specific person. Whenever old Joe walks through the clinic doors, Bella lets out a high-pitched cry of pure adoration, instantly recognizing the guardian angel who walked through fire to save her family. When the day finally comes for them to leave the clinic, there is absolutely no question about where they are going. Joe doesn't just foster them, he adopts the entire family. He transforms his dusty trailer property into a canine paradise. Using his old tools, he builds a large, shaded wooden enclosure under the giant oak tree, complete with soft grass, plush beds, and an endless supply of fresh water. The desert is no longer a place of isolation and death, but a sanctuary of life. As for the monster who tried to extinguish these beautiful lights, the universe delivered swift and poetic justice. The luxury SUV remained trapped in the desert sand until the police, responding to Joe's radio call, arrived on the scene. The cruel woman was arrested on the spot for felony animal cruelty. She lost her expensive car, her freedom, and her reputation. She learned the hard way that when you try to bury innocent souls, you often end up digging your own grave. Fast forward one glorious month later, and the picture of happiness is complete. Bella is unrecognizable from the starved, desperate skeleton tied to that post. She has gained 20 pounds of healthy weight, and her golden fur radiates with health. She trots proudly around Joe's property, her head held high, acting as the loving protector of her new kingdom. The sorrow that once clouded her gentle brown eyes has completely vanished, replaced by pure, unshakable peace and absolute contentment. Her 6 puppies have transformed into absolute whirlwinds of joy. They chase butterflies in the cool shade, wrestle in the green grass, and climb all over Joe's lap, covering his bearded face in wet, happy puppy kisses. Each one is a living, breathing miracle, a testament to what can happen when good people refuse to look the other way. Soon they will all go to carefully vetted, loving forever homes, carrying their mother's incredible legacy of resilience with them. The most beautiful scene happens at sunset. Joe sits in his rocking chair on the porch, watching the desert sky turn purple and pink. Bella walks over and gently rests her heavy golden head right on his lap. Joe sets down his worn Bible and strokes her soft ears, tears of pure gratitude welling in his aged eyes. He is no longer a lonely veteran waiting out his days. He has a family, a purpose, and a loyal best friend who looks at him like he hung the moon. God does not allow evil to have the final word. Bella proved that the love of a mother is a force of nature that neither the brutal desert nor human cruelty can ever defeat. The woman who abandoned her heart in the trash found only ruin, while the kind old man who offered his shade found his greatest blessing. In a world where humanity sometimes fails, the pure loyalty of an animal shines brighter than the desert sun. Who do you think deserves forgiveness, and who deserves the ultimate punishment? Did the woman who abandoned this angel get the justice she deserved? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Please leave a like right now if you believe that every single animal deserves a warm, loving home, and comment Amen to bless Bella and her puppies on their incredible new journey. Thank you for watching, and may God bless everyone who loves and protects animals.